Rants Magazine, Episode 6, in Mr. Natsume's room. In this escapade, in Mr. Natsume's room, it's revealed that the Japanese scholar was once a teacher of English. He has much to say on the cultural differences between Japan and Britain, as well as on sentimentality, Shakespeare, and cycling. "23rd of February, 6:09 p.m., Mr. Natsume's room.
So, Mr. Natsume, are you really returning home to Japan?
Yes, indeed I am. Everything I arranged already.
It'll be sad to see you go. And after Runa worked so hard to prove your innocence as well. What a shame. Feels like it was all a wasted effort.
Don't say that! I know what you're suggesting. Now, calm down, Mr. Natsume. It's all fine, really. You are in good company here, sir. If you fear the Reaper, you needn't hide the fact. And everyone's here.
I'm a proud citizen of that part of Japan. I'm not a scaredy cat.
Talking of cats, Mr. Shrums just casually threw one among the pigeons there.
Man like me belongs to Japan, not here. That's why I come to realize.
I wonder, a mustache such as yours is eminently suited to London, I would say. There he goes. There goes Mr. Shrums throwing another cat in.
The moment I arrived at the city, I noticed. No one in London laughs at me behind my back, like hyenas. Hysterical hyenas, horribly. I'm sure that's not true, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, but it is. Whenever I turn around and peer down the fog-filled streets, all I see is foreigners everywhere.
Oh, there's you, Bruno, and Susie in here, so that's 3 foreigners out of 5 people. I take your point.
Only the other day, I was taking a stroll through the fog as usual when a young man approached me from behind. He was pale and gaunt, his back arched like a cat. Observing his wretchedness moved me so deeply. I thought to myself, I'm not the only one suffering in this hell. But do you know what?
Can you imagine? It was just my own reflection in the shop window. Stunning, stinging, stupefying surprise.
Don't forget slapping in the face. Everyone started laughing at me. Gentlemen, thereabouts, ladies passing by.
Even the man in the shop window.
Ah, yes, and a certain great detective would like to be included among the mirthful. Mr. Shrums is really going for Soseki-san today.
Well, I for one think you're a very handsome man, Mr. Natsume.
There, do you hear that? This 10-year-old girl thinks you're handsome. Isn't that wonderful? That makes me feel suspiciously warm inside. He looks genuinely delighted. The point is,
we Japanese are humble and modest. Studying on foreign soil, surrounded by foreign people, how could anyone possibly enjoy that? No one could, it's impossible, if you're a genuine Japanese. If you say so. Actually, it would appear that there is someone. A Japanese man who studied in a foreign country and seems to have thrived on the experience.
There is? That pose.
Mr. Ogai Mori. I believe he studied in Germany.
Mr. Mori, pray tell us more of the fellow.
Well, today he's a very successful author in Japan.
Oh, I heard of him. He's the professor who wrote My Hime, isn't he? Is that princess?
My Hime?
I suppose in English the title would be Dancing Queen. Maybe? Thought Hime was princess. I don't know.
Oh, I see. A tale of a woman who waltzed her way through the world, perhaps. You really didn't make up a silly translation, you know. It's already officially called The Dancing Girl in English. It seems Mr. Mori greatly enjoyed his time in Germany. He became close with a local lady while he was there. close, you say, with a local lady? A compatriot's criminally contradictory conduct.
Well, I suppose your experience of studying abroad depends to a large extent on your character. As they say.
Many minds.
Mr. Mori has an open mind, Mr. Natsume, a closed one. Possibly a slightly black and white view, don't you think, Mr. Sholmes?
Well, anyway, if that's how you feel about being abroad, why did you choose to study here?
Wasn't it to further our nation's understanding of the English language or something? Yes, that's right. So what are you doing in Japan before you came to Britain then? I was a school teacher of English, of course.
Bit cursory perhaps, but I've managed to discover some information about Mr. Natsume's teaching days.
How? That's just outside the field of law, isn't it, Miss Sato?
Well, let me pose you a question, Mr. Naruto. If you had to translate the English phrase I love you into Japanese, what would it become?
Aishiteru? It's easy, Aishiteru or ski desu. And
Wrong!
damn it, I knew it.
According to Mr. Natsume's teaching, at least.
Oh, what?
Would you like to explain, Mr. Natsume?
Yeah. Yes, of course. Your research was very thorough. I always used to tell my students that we Japanese don't express ourselves that way. Rather, we might say, "Ski ga kirei desu ne." My dear Natsume, I must interject. Ski ga kirei desu ne would translate as, the moon is beautiful, isn't it?
I know that!
The point is, we Japanese are reticent when it comes to expressing our emotions. We prefer to show our feelings of adoration as ski or by appreciating the beauty of the moon, the suki. Using suki to express ski is an amusing play on words, I see.
No! Or in language you might understand better, bad Sholmes. It's not a play on words, it's subtle, it's supple, it's fleeting and beautiful. It's art. Isn't it just being shy?
My dear fellow, the foreign dancing girl will forever be out of your reach with such an attitude. Imagine how the great Mr. Mori would act. He would win the lady's heart in a flash, with a well-placed and unrestrained, "I love you."
That smooth Mr. Mori. Am I destined to live in his shadow forever?
Just what sort of man is he in that imagination of yours? The fact is, just can't settle in this foggy London town with all of its foreign inhabitants. I've lost count the number of different lodgings I tried before I found myself here. As it happens, I even lived on Baker Street at one time.
Oh, really?
A Sao scholar lives near there, a man named of William James Craig. His knowledge of Sao is unsurpassed. He has been a great inspiration to me over the... Forgive the interruption, but am I supposed to be familiar with this Sao of which you speak? It's Shakespeare, of course, Shakespeare, but in Japanese, we write it as Sa and O. It's a phonetic representation using kanji characters, so in England, it's Igirusu, and America is America. Come to think of it, we use the same characters as Ri in one word and Risu in another. Talk about confusing. So Shakespeare is Sao in Japanese. Perhaps the Sa is a brutal attempt at his first Sha. In which case, where's the spear?
I never thought of that. We only have the O left.
Which could, in the most charitable interpretation, only be a brutal attempt at old man.
seems to me that whoever had the job of deciding on the characters for his name got bored very early on. Complete kanji character catastrophe!
So then, on to the burning question. What about me? How do you write my name? Sorry? Erlock Shrums, my dear fellow. There must be Japanese characters for my name.
Oh dear, I am sorry, Mr. Sholmes, but none exist that I'm aware of.
What? Am I really nothing to you, Japanese? In that case, it is a matter of paramount importance. You must construct a name in kanji at once. Oh, well, we could use a kanji that's pronounced so to start with, and then use one more to give so, oh, perhaps. I think that would be about right, Mr. Sholmes.
But that's almost the same as Sao, isn't it?
Yes, you implied the dreaded O. I don't want people to confuse me with an old man who died centuries ago. I'm sure the world's greatest literary figure would rather not be confused with you either. Well, the world's greatest detective is still youthful and full of vigor. So how about so handsome?
Oh yes, that sounds wonderful. I'm sure everyone will be calling you that 100 years from now.
How could she say that with a straight face?
What about me then, Iris? Perhaps Aime, since the second character doesn't seem to matter.
Like love, princess? Oh, right, okay.
Oh yes, Princess of Love. That's an adorable name for you, Iris.
Stop, please.
With a name like that, Mr. Mori is likely to turn up any moment and rashly to declare, I love you.
This Mori-san has become quite a character in Saseki-san's mind. And you, Mr. Naruhodo, might I venture Kurobozu as a fitting name for you, as in Dark Punk?
Oh, that's very good. It describes you perfectly, Runo.
So you think I'll be wearing this black varsity uniform for the rest of my days, do you? I would.
But Mr. Naruhodo already has a Japanese name. I don't think he needs another. Well, anyway. We were talking about your life here in London, weren't we, Mr. Natsume? You should just get out and have fun.
The landlady has said as much to me too. Mrs. Garrideb? But it wasn't fun at all. It was frightful.
Whatever do you mean? A cycle incident?
An incident? On a bicycle? Oh yes, come to think of it. Oh yeah, there was a broken bike. There's an old bicycle parked outside, isn't there? It's in a sorry state though. I tried to say no to her, but she insisted I took it for a ride. Perhaps my pronunciation was wrong. So I took my life in my hands and attempted to ride the steel spider-web stallion to a nearby park.
I really don't think there's anything wrong with your pronunciation, Mr. Natsume.
Joan Garrideb just isn't the kind of woman to take no for an answer. If you're going to die, you might as well die in a beautiful surroundings, so the park was my first thought. After a whole day of dicing with death, I emerged with only relatively minor bruises. So you got a knack of it? Don't be silly! Dying. Is it something you could learn to do?
Mr. Natsume, you keep talking about dicing with death and dying and so forth, but riding a bicycle is supposed to be fun.
Oh no, that's just what people tell you. But it's an old wives' tale. That's what big bike...
Is it?
I mean, just consider the real name of the vehicle. It's not called a dicycle for nothing.
How anyone expects to use such an aptly named vehicle to move forward is beyond me. Battle power, promises paid. I didn't think it was possible to get worse with practice. I'm lucky to be alive. Although I must say,
After looking death in the eye for a whole week, I did at least manage to mount the steed reliably. And notwithstanding a few wobbles, I found I could make progress in the forward direction. Huh, what a triumph. Deduction is much the same. When first presented with a problem, the mental exertion of trying to solve it leads only to bitter disappointment. But after a week of picking one's way carefully along the path of reasoning and thought, one begins to see results. So is that why all of your off-the-cuff deductions always seem half-baked?
What a wonderful insight into your extraordinary mind, Mr. Sholmes.
Unfortunately, after wobbling down the street, I noticed there were little stones everywhere, death traps. Not that way, I said to myself, but the wild vehicle wouldn't listen. It wobbled me on down the street.
And of course, I hit one of those deadly stones and the crazy gulped through me.
It's just my luck. Bicycles are the epitome of my pitiful life. I wish I could disagree.
On the same subject, I'm sure there's a famous American author who's written about having a similar experience. Yes, I've read that essay too, Iris.
Some of us are better read than others. Well, no more bicycles for me.
Oh, Mr. Natsume, at least you've had an interesting anecdote to take with you back to Japan, if nothing else.
You always manage to put a positive spin on things, don't you, Mrs. Sato? Personally, I haven't mounted a bicycle for some time.
Oh, me neither.
Me neither. That's good. So how about a jaunt? We shall all ride out together.
Huh?
That sounds great. I'll perch behind Mrs. Sato.
But the sun is going down. It will be pitch black before long. London's street lamps are very bright, you know, and the fog isn't too thick today. And my beloved ride is all bent out of shape.
My dear fellow, if you're bound to topple the vehicle anyway, it's fitting that it's already bent out of shape.
It's settled then. Come along, Mr. Natsume. Shall we go?
Tsukigakure desu ne. Don't tell me that's his translation of no thank you as well. Indeed, Mr. Natsume, the moon is at its most beautiful at precisely this time of the evening. Oh.
Not Japanese. You can't beat around the bush with us. What a weird and wonderful world.
Oh man, this might be my favorite one so far.